Talking about DC in a Marvel mask, let's go. Today I'm going to be ranking the 9 DCEU movies after Wonder Woman 1984 just released, and I thought it would be a good time to rank all these films. I haven't really talked about them fully on this channel before, so I thought this would give me a chance to do that, and give some more thoughts on the latest Wonder Woman 84 film, which I do have a review out for if you want to check that out. And now, before I do make my ranking, make sure to check out my Letterboxd down below. I have a lot of other lists and rankings and reviews and stuff on there that you can check out. Make sure you let me know your rankings of the DCEU down below. This is a very mixed movie franchise to me. I think as a franchise it doesn't work. Whenever they try and make films within a series of films, they don't really work. But when they end up making standalone movies that are just on their own, they end up doing a really good job. So I'm here today to talk to you about the 9 DCU movies and ranking them from worst to best. Coming in at number 9, the worst DCEU film to date is Justice League. Justice League is my least favourite DCEU movie. I watched this movie for the first time and said it was okay. I thought it was decent, it was a good time, but I really didn't care about it. I forgot about it very quickly after I saw it, and saying it's the big team-up of all our DC heroes, they really failed. And watching it again, I, number one, struggled to get through it, and number two, thought it was abysmal. I really hate this movie now. It's so rushed, and it doesn't feel like a complete product. I'm excited to see the Snyder Cut. I'm excited to see what they can do. Hopefully he can make it better, but the tonal shift was completely off. It was just such a mediocre superhero film. The CG wasn't even finished. It was really, really bad. It's one of the worst superhero movies I've ever seen. There is no build-up at all. The fact that Batman v Superman set up the Justice League by Wonder Woman being sent an email is atrocious in itself. But this movie doesn't do anything better with that. I hate Justice League. The villains, they don't do anything with these heroes. There's a few small little moments, little fan moments that I enjoy. And some of these characters, such as Batman and Wonder Woman and Superman, I do enjoy some of these characters. But besides that, they pretty much failed the biggest failure they can do. And I'm actually really looking forward to seeing what Zack Snyder can do in his extended cut of the film. Number 8 is Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad, again like Justice League, is another movie that I watched for the first time and said, it was decent. I enjoyed the characters, I enjoyed their performances. I still think Will Smith as Deadshot and Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn were really well cast, and I really liked the rest of the cast in there as well. I liked the music and the style of the film. But again, I haven't watched it fully since 2016 when it first came out, because every time I've tried to rewatch this movie, I've ended up turning it off in the first 20 minutes. This movie has no rewatch value, and it's really made me think back on what it was and think, actually this was pretty terrible, because after I get past all those interesting character introductions, I sort of think to myself, wait a minute, there's still the rest of the movie left, and I remember not enjoying that part of the movie very much, and I end up switching it off and then looking back and saying, you know what, this movie was pretty bad. It has probably my least favourite incarnation of the Joker, and I just really don't like this film. I do enjoy some of the characters, and the only reason it's above Justice League, even though I can probably rewatch Justice League more, is that Suicide Squad, to me, actually had some enjoyment in it. I wasn't sitting there like this for the majority of the runtime. Like I'm okay with this movie. I don't hate it. I really do hate Justice League. I don't really hate this film. I think it's just very, very mediocre. Number 7 is Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice was a immensely disappointing movie, and because it just came out too soon. They just released Man of Steel, and even though I like this as a sequel to that film, it felt like we're getting into this universe and having these two big characters face off far too early within the process. And it just felt, again, even though it's a very long film, it felt rushed. I have not yet seen the extended cut of this movie, because this movie is boring as it is, but hopefully some of the plot elements can be tied up a little better. And that's one of the things that I dislike so heavily about this film, is its narrative. The plot is all over the place. There are dream sequences and character motivations that just make no sense. Things just happen left and right. This movie has some good stuff in it. It feels like one cohesive product, unlike the last two movies I said. Zack Snyder has a good directing vision, and he shows that. There are some things I do like about Batman v Superman. A lot of the action is great, and the fight itself is amazing. Just the purpose for it didn't feel right. I do enjoy Ben Affleck as Batman. I enjoy Henry Cavill as Superman. But them two together in a movie just felt very convoluted to me, and it was just so dragged out. They tried to make it a lot more complicated and better than it should have been, and end up being very boring and convoluted. And it sort of ended up as a massive mess. And that's unfortunate. I can still rewatch the film though. I still think it has more things in it I enjoy than the other two films. After seeing it for the first time, it would have been last place, but after rewatching it a few more times, I have come to appreciate some of the other stuff in it too much. But this is easily one of the most disappointing movies I've ever seen. Regardless though, I do think it is a better film than Suicide Squad and Justice League. Coming in at number 6 is Birds of Prey. We're actually getting to the movies I slightly enjoyed now, and we've gone through the 3 team-up movies, which I think they've really failed at. And what I think they've really done a good job at is the standalone films. Birds of Prey is a mixture between two. It's, on one hand, a standalone Harley Quinn movie, which I really enjoyed, and on the other hand, it's a team-up movie with the Birds of Prey, which I thought was quite mediocre. As a Harley Quinn movie, I had a really good time with it. The first half of this film I thought was actually pretty great. The second half I thought was actually pretty bad. So yeah, I had mixed thoughts on this movie, but I still enjoyed it far more than the other 3. Coming in at number 5 is Wonder Woman 1984. This is sure to move up on my list, I'm assuming, after I've seen it again. I don't think it would move down. I had a blast with this movie. There's quite a lot of negative reviews and mixed reviews out there for this film, and I really don't understand why. I think it's a blast. I think the story works for what it needs to be. It has that pulpy, cheesy aspect to it, but it doesn't go too over the top and it doesn't go too bland. I think it works as a sequel, reverting some characters' roles from the first one, giving Wonder Woman a nice arc, giving Steve a nice arc. I think it has some of the better villains in the DCU franchise. They're not just plain CGI big monsters. They have reasons. And even though it's a little conventional and a little long, I had a great time watching it, and it has some added themes to it to me. It had some thematics to it, and it had some more emotional moments within this series that some of the other films don't have. So it's going to stick here for now. I love Hans Zimmer's score as well. I think it's much improvement over the first one. And speaking of the first one, number 4 is Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman comes in at number 4. Now, the first 2 acts of this movie, I think, are amazing. The setup in the Amazonians, everything involving the war, Diana and Steve's relationship, the war and the corruption, everything involving that, the fish out of water tale with Diana, everything involving that, I think is actually great. And if it was just those first 2 acts, this movie would be easily straight up in that first place spot. But unfortunately, this movie is ruined a little bit for me by the third act. The third act has a pointless reveal and a big CGI monster battle and an underwhelming final battle, and it just all feels like everything awesome and inspirational that was leading to just led to a very conventional conclusion, and it sort of ruins the end of the film for me, which is why I haven't put it in that top 3. I think the first 2 acts of this movie are magnificent and the best thing the DCU have ever done. Wonder Woman rightfully deserves its top spot in the DCU, but for me, I can't really go back and rewatch the movie because as much as the other ones, because I end up watching the first 2 acts and then watching the third act and feeling disappointed after I've seen it, even though the first 2 acts were so great. So, all in all, I love a lot of Wonder Woman. I love most of it. And the reason it's above the second one is I think it's a better directed film and a better paced movie than that film. But I'm still going to keep it at this spot. I still really love the movie and have a great time every time I see it. Number 3 is Aquaman. Aquaman is a visually stunning movie. It's a very exciting movie. It has beautiful colours, beautiful world-building scenery. I'm not a big fan of the Aquaman character himself, but this movie was a ton of fun. It's paced really, really well. I put it above Wonder Woman because its third act is actually epic and awesome. It flows very nicely from beginning to end. It's very cheesy. It has a lot of jokes and stuff that don't land, but the action is big in scope. Aquaman's just such a fun film. It's a movie I can put on any time and just enjoy. It's extremely exciting. It doesn't hit immersive levels to me, but it's just so entertaining. It's not a great film, but every time I see it, I do like it more. Number 2 is Shazam. Shazam is such an enjoyable film. This movie is, again, like Aquaman, a blast from start to finish, and DC have definitely done a better job with their more humorous films, in my opinion, and Shazam is one of those. This movie feels straight out of the 80s and put into modern day, and I really have a good time watching it. Rewatching it, I do notice some of the tonal issues within this film, and some of the character problems as well, and some of the more conventions it follows, but at the same time, I don't really mind that movies like this, Aquaman, and movies like Wonder Woman 84 follow those conventions because they're meant to. They're meant to feel like that classical superhero movies we don't usually get. And even though sometimes it doesn't work and the tone can feel off, Shazam actually makes it work very, very well. This is a hilarious superhero movie. It's a great time. Number one, though, my number one favourite film in the DCU, and its best film in my opinion, and still it's the first film in the DCU, and my number one pick is Man of Steel. This movie, though, has a disadvantage against all the other films in this series, and that's the fact that pretty much every other film in this series hasn't been done before. We've never seen a Batman v Superman, we've never seen an Aquaman, we've never seen a Shazam or a Wonder Woman films, we've never seen a Birds of Prey. But we have seen a Superman origin story before, the original Superman from 1978. This movie is a darker tale of that movie. It's sort of like the Batman Begins to that. It's nowhere near as good as Batman Begins, but Man of Steel, I think, was a good, darker take on the Superman origin story. It took what we knew and put it in a different way and showed it in a more realistic way. It has big epic action. Zack Snyder does a great job. Again, Hans Zimmer, masterful score. I just love Man of Steel. It's the one I've seen the most, and maybe after I've seen a few of the other ones more times, maybe this will get pushed back, but now it is still my favourite DCU movie, and they started off pretty strong, then they dipped big far, and now they're going back up again with their standalone movies. I'm just hoping Zack Snyder's Justice League can be good, and in the future they can make some more coherent storytelling with the entire franchise. But overall, I do enjoy a lot of the standalone movies. It's just the two movies I haven't really had a good time with. But there you go, there's my ranking of the 9 DCU movies. Let me know what your ranking is down below, I'd love to hear. And of course, thanks for watching, and goodbye.